Good evening, citizens. My name is Ban Shattersong, captain of the Bloody Hand Mercenary Company. And today, I will be Chris. Hello. I'm also joined by Matty and Sol, my fellow striding members. Say hello, you two.
Hello,
Hi.
We have the delightful, the delightful job today of talking to you about a certain player event. This one in question being Walk the Longest Path. Or was it Walk the Longest Paths, plural? Anyway, there were definitely, I think there was technically one path we trod, excuse the pun, but it was indeed a long path. And without waffling anymore, this was a player event all three of us went to a few weeks ago, and it was centered around the idea of walking the trods. So this was set in Eversley at Eyelarp, was run by their team, and it was, overall, I think we can all agree, a fantastic event, a lot of fun, and had a really good time.
Yeah, shout out to Johnny and Kitty who run Eyelarp and ran this event.
Yeah, it's absolutely awesome.
It was my first player event as a player rather than running one.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah, same.
That was fun.
Gosh, yeah. We'll have to touch on QGIT in the future, but today we'll focus on Walk the Longest Path, or Whittle-up. Doesn't really roll off the tongue as well as QGIT. Whittle-up. But short of making up new spitting sounds, what we're going to do today is we're going to do our usual dissection strategy. And this is cutting it into the 3 separate days we had, so Friday, Saturday, and a little bit of Sunday, similar to a mainline Empire event. And then what we're also going to talk about on each of those days is kind of our OC opinion of this. Is quite, I would say, quite unique player event. A lot of the time they're quite static, but actually having hiking involved, which is quite a hard skill, let's call it, was quite interesting. And also, not to mention that this event was actually booked and planned pre-COVID, so what, 2.5 years in the making, and boy did they deliver. But we'll also be talking about our IC characters, what the combat was like, what it was like with some certain new characters that we're all dearly in love with, may or may not be called Kronk, and also our our close encounters with death.
Yeah.
But separate and together at the same time. But on happier notes, not talking about holding Farron as he died in my arms. We'll be talking about the Friday. So I guess to kick us off, we finally had the chance to sit down and talk as a striding. And how fun was that? We won't go into the details, but of what we discussed. Just
too much plotting that we can't talk about.
Absolutely.
But so nice.
My God, for a striding of such lovely people, we literally never see each other in the field, really. We're
the
bound
problem
together.
with an ambition striding.
Yeah, we're bound together by our
ambitious.
ambitions, but that means we're always busy doing our own things off the other side of Anvil. Only really catch you in passing, but no, we set up. We went to the inn that was there, the tavern. We sat down at a table in the corner and had a good old chat. And that was good.
Yeah. I think that's actually more like what I was going to say, one-on-one, I guess, one-on-one chatting that we've even been able to organize to do online before that event and before or during or after E1.
Yeah, definitely. Awesome. We haven't had that much FaceTime with each other at all.
No, I certainly could tell because I don't know about you two, but I definitely was like, I'm enjoying this so much. I really don't want to stop just having a chat because we just don't. There's always someone else there, or someone's missing, or someone's got to go and do something, and you never quite. I mean, how often do we get to do it in such nice surroundings as well?
Oh, yes.
What was, to all intents and purposes, like an IC tavern in the Marches, which was just so cool. Like hovering around in the corner as people came in and out, talking and trying to let people hear about what we were saying. It was great. It was so good. It was nice to catch up, and it was nice to get the IC time and do the role play kind of conversations that we don't always get to do because it has to quite a lot of the time sort of segue into OC planning.
especially when they're having these kind of discussions at OC at a pub. We have a catch up, once every blue moon when we're all in the same country, let alone city.
Yeah, and you never want to go too icy during those moments because it always feels a bit cheap to be doing that.
Yeah, yeah.
As we've discussed recently, Empire is not technically a find out in play system, but there's sort of that honor system that makes you go, but I don't really want to like sully the field moments by doing all of this planning or talking in a serious way. Like we talk about other stuff all the time, but to actually go into detail about as our characters about what we want to do and what we're doing and talking to each other and arguing as well. It's just lovely.
Yeah. What was it when you two said, I think we should also take the brand? Hang on, everyone.
It's a democracy now because 2 of the 3 of us have voted it.
Hang on, this is not what I announced myself as dictator for, I suppose. But I was, yeah.
Band shatter song, not brand shatter song.
Ooh.
Land shatter song, more like.
Ow. Ouch.
No,
Gosh, that cleave, my leg.
You have just segued onto another thing of this event, which was just coming up with ridiculous names for band shatter song.
Yeah, that was a highlight. Man banter song.
And a poor Dan Bracken song out there is probably in future going to be mistaken for band shatter song. It's too close.
Yeah. Not intended either. It wasn't. No. It's not deliberate. It was funny.
Yeah, have some interesting discussions with militia officers in the future, I suppose. And also, who could forget Longhorn Mc Give Me Your Loud Face? If someone could remind me of that character's name.
Give me your loud face. That's why I laughed so much. I was like, what? Until I realised it was referencing the horns.
Yeah.
Because he's a changeling. But,
yeah.
Yeah.
And the worst thing is I knew exactly who it was.
Yep, 100%.
Yeah, I need to get better with names. You touched there on the scenery of the being in an IC tavern, and it's worth mentioning for anyone listening who hasn't been to the Eversley site that they have these 2 awesome villages. It's part for Larp, part for Airsoft. One's a Wild West theme, but it's pretty like, I'd say, what's the right word here? Like low branding. Yeah, thank you. Agnostic. It's not clearly Wild West. It's not like like I don't know, Derringer revolvers all over the place.
It wasn't. It didn't put us out of like immersion to be there.
Yeah.
Be saying that it was Empire. It was really good.
Yeah.
In fact, added to the immersion, no?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, yeah. Having actual streets of these, these actual wooden structures that we got to camp in. No tents involved. Literally staying inside these little wooden cabins. Think of a very fancy double-sized garden shed, and you're probably along the right lines. I mean, ours had bunk beds in, didn't it?
It did, yeah. Well, so what I found out, I don't know if you knew this at all, but each cabin is built by someone, and the agreement is that if they come to site for an event, then they get obviously to use the cabin that they build. So they're all built by someone to their own specifications, which is why the one we were in had that little chimney space, is because the people that build it normally bring a camping stove with them.
Was this the chimney space directly above Sol's head?
Yes.
But up on Sunday morning.
In defense of the builders, they would normally sleep in the bunks, not in, the actual bit that they built to sleep in, rather than under the chimney spout, where there would normally be a chimney. We didn't really predict that one.
No, impossible to.
I had it in the back of my mind, because I laid back, ready to go to bed on the first night, and I went, that's an interesting, patched hole. Glad it's not raining.
Little skylight. It was awesome. And
Sure
there's so much more to Eversley than just those villages as well.
Mm.
The site was very, very good. So many places that you could, flavour as lots of different things, hide an encounter in, and we used a lot of it over the weekend.
We did, and I think they did a really good job of not trying to fit every area in all the time. So it meant that even like because obviously we did the big walk on Saturday, which we'll go into more. But then even by the end of Saturday and Sunday, we were still seeing new areas, and it just felt really organic the way that they did it, coming in and out and using the space. They just used their site really well, which obviously they know the site really well, which must help. But wow, it was well planned.
Definitely, and some of the glades and the roads we ended up on during the actual walk, it wasn't just a case of slapping us repeatedly around the face with the admittedly very nice villagers, but we managed to use 2 different villages and represent, I think, 4 different physical locations. There was a fort as well, wasn't there? And
The fort, I think, was the only location that we actually used twice. Oh no, we did use the Wild West one twice, but really barely. Like the second time we were in the Wild West village, we didn't.
stay.
We only really touched on it, and that was the final day, I think. So we hadn't been in it the whole day before.
No, we did use it 3 times. But
Oh, did we?
Yeah, we had
2 combat encounters there.
Oh yeah, we had the sneaking one as well. I forgot about that.
Yeah, we raided it on the Saturday, I believe, for a cart of watering cans. And
Well,
then
there you go. Look, I didn't even remember that we've been in it 3 times because it felt like such new places.
Oh,
like,
they were
Yeah.
vastly different every time, and mainly because you were approaching from different sides.
Mm.
And it was dressed up differently, and there's different people inside. But
there was
but
also,
yeah,
I think. Oh, carry on. So
no, go for it.
all I was going to say is that I think everyone, like both crew and players who was there, they were, because of the site, because of the level of playing, all of the above. Like they immersed us so much that it was so easy to believe that kind of thing. And not and just like get carried away and be like, yeah, okay, of course we've been walking the trods from I believe it was we started in Upwold in the marches and traveled along the border up to Miaran, and it was just so believable. Like of course this is a completely new place. Of course these are completely new people because the crew have to recycle so many times over the weekend, and I mean, out of character you recognize all of them straight away, but they did a fantastic job and everyone took it really seriously. Like they weren't serious, but they took themselves seriously, which meant that it felt easy to like get in the swing of it and make it feel real, I guess.
Yeah, there was no Hubgub, the orc, the Jotun orc, which, okay, I'm firstly guilty of playing on the main field, but yeah,
it's different
they
when
were.
you monster than when you crew like a very intense small player event. Like it's not hundreds of people though.
Because there was about 30 of us walking in the end, about 15 crew.
So. Yeah.
So yeah, around about the first.
It's pretty small.
Yeah.
But big enough that it was quite grandeur.
Oh yeah, it did not feel small.
But yeah, so
it was a good size.
What else happened on the Friday? It was mainly just kind of chill time, really, just kind of socializing in character. So after our little chats, I think we all kind of went off. I ate a lot of cheese and talked ammunition with Corey Wayfarer, which was good fun.
A trend you would continue, the cheese specifically, for the rest of the weekend.
And then we ended up playing lots of dice, right?
Oh, Liar's Dice.
Yeah,
And
there were some great games.
was it Puck?
Yes.
The younger Thorn who has A, developed a taste for it, and B, a winning streak that I'm quite envious of. Robbing me of
I
a.
outlasted Puck. It's not so bad.
Yeah, it was the ridiculously accurate. Well, I guess it's not quite guessing, but it certainly feels like it at points. Yeah, and we had quite a few people cycle through, didn't we? And just that kind of. I guess my final point for the Friday would be the amount of characters that I think we all recognise from other player events and mainline events that we actually got to stop and talk to, including ourselves.
Yeah.
But we actually, Ravadi, for example, I've seen them around the field at player events, maybe 5 or 6 sentences of dialogue, but actually having 10 to 15-minute conversations with all of these different heroes of Navarre, that was awesome, like totally awesome. And finally catching up and asking, hey, I saw you do this thing, what the hell was going on, and getting the backstory from it.
I think that's the good thing about a player event, though, is there's no real draw to go and you haven't got to rush off to military council. You haven't got to rush off to all of these meetings. You haven't got a time limit ticking down of I have to get this traded by the end of the weekend and whatnot.
Yeah.
Work out where my military unit's going because.
I mean, carry on. I keep
the
interrupting.
event itself is, a lovely little story. It is downtime, really, as a background thing. We're not, So we do have time to sit around and chat.
Yeah, saying it's downtime is a really good point. And you're also, I know we were literally going out on a walk, but in many ways you're kind of stuck together for the whole weekend, which means that you are coming back to the same people over and over. So you don't just have 5 minutes and then you might not see someone for the rest of the weekend. But you also, there's no pressure to get everything done. So you can just talk about, normal things that people would talk about and just do it in character, which helps you build your character, helps the immersion feel better. You get to do things like your dice and your games that you just don't, like, it's so world building, but you don't really, unless you're playing in a particular way, get to do that much of it in that kind of way at a mainline event. So yeah, I mean, it was downtime for our characters kind of as well, but it was a really nice downtime, like, for us, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. And on that point there, on the world building, our objective was a variety of different towns, right? But because we're all going there, all doing this, for the people listening in, these walks were, what was it, like a 3-hour walk and then a 2-hour walk?
On the first day, we did, I think 3.5 hours, then 2 hours, and then I think we did a third one, didn't we? Saturday
and there's a little one, like a 40-minute one on the Sunday, the final one.
Yeah.
And that was like through the herb garden and stuff.
Down like real hills and things.
We did 20 kilometers in total.
Yeah. 16 on the first day. On the hot day as well.
So should we talk about that?
Yeah, definitely.
That's morning.
Yeah, my point was going to be around your personal objectives at a mainline event are all very different, but at this event it was walk to the place. So to your point, Matty, around having the time to do stuff and just talk about idle chatter almost, it was perfect.
So we woke up on the Saturday morning, bright and bushy, not too hungover.
And we armoured up.
We armoured up.
We did.
Wandered over to the rest of the group that had kind of formed, ready to start the walk. It's like 10 o'clock, maybe 10:30. And, we were told that we're going on like a 3-hour walk. It was really hot for England. Summer's out. A lot of, made sure we've got our waters, our backpacks, and everyone else kind of looking around. They had their weapons, right? But there wasn't much other pieces of armor. I think there was like one other piece of heavy armor with us.
There weren't even really that many weapons in the end. Like, most people didn't bring them on the first one, I think.
Some people didn't bring them to the event.
Yes.
That's another point, but we'll get to combat, I guess.
I was gonna say, it was only because I think we'd all kind of talked about it just before the event as to whether or not we were gonna bring, our full combat kit, basically. Like, would it be necessary? And from an OC point, we were all like, yeah, okay, might as well, because we don't want to be caught out being silly and die, essentially. Which, in many ways, mirrors our icy opinion.
Foreshadowing.
And foreshadowing, exactly. So we were standing there, all in kind of. I was in my full chain, which first time I was wearing it was E1 properly.
Very good looking chain. Whoever helped you pick it is clearly some kind of fashionista.
Oh. I wonder who that was.
It was me. No, it wasn't me.
No, it was Chris. And then I had to lug it all the way back from Gloucester, but it was worth it. Us Thorns, Shatter Song, full armor, looking across the rest of them, and honestly, I don't know if you saw it. We were getting looks of like, we're going on a walk, and they're doing it in chain. How silly. And honestly, Chris, all I remember right at the start of the walk, we started going off. You were in a bad state already.
Yes, I was not hungover or in any way. in any way indisposed and unable to walk a long distance.
Well,
You
we
told me at
had
the
a
start,
slightly earlier night than Martin, aka Travid Longest Path, but it still had been a Friday night of fun.
Yeah, had been pretty good. But anyway, Sol, apologies. I was whining, bitching, and moaning to set the scene.
Yeah, Farron took his place as essentially the Striding's "please hold this," as I was for the rest of the season.
Yes, you were.
But you know, that's what Farron's for. I had a nice little backpack as well that I bought kind of last minute, and it went over the chain, and I could fight with it. So that is an excellent purchase.
Didn't you say that after the first combat you actually didn't realise that you were still wearing it because you'd forgotten about it during the fight?
Yeah. So that was an absolute steal of a purchase, and means that I'm not going to run out of snacks or water on mainline battles anymore.
Oh, true. Yeah, you can just wear it.
I can just wear it.
Fantastic. So you can carry all of my snacks then, yeah?
All of your snacks, all of Band's snacks, Band's jumpers, whatever he's taking off.
Farron snack-a-song.
Oh, for goodness sake.
Well, to be fair, I don't know why you trust me with your snacks. I am still hungered of the dragon, you know? But yeah, so we started the hike, right? We were all in good spirits, apart from Band.
Getting steadily hotter.
And we then heard some cries, right?
Some cries for help, yes.
Yeah.
Encounter number 1.
If
along the way there were, I want to say 3 or 4 encounters, just like on the trods.
Yeah,
so the first one was a bunch of people hacked to bits on the floor. I saw 2 ears.
There were a lot of ears, yeah, a lot of ears.
Saying something about a Dornish troubadour and a bunch of ruffians, ragtag band.
Chris, could you tell us anything about bandits and how they operate?
No. Keep going, Sol.
Well, from no experience of anyone in this striding, I know that they don't tend to just go for ears. But it mainly turned out that was just, you know, some great roleplay for the physics, and some, well, I'll say it again, foreshadowing.
Yeah.
Of
it was a good warm up as well.
It was. It set the scene so well. Of no, we could always say, there are bandits in these woods and we get attacked, and like that's fine. But this set an element of threat, of danger, finding all of these, you know, about 5 or 10 Imperial citizens, just in varying states of not okay, lying on the trods, and just walking into them. Like, oh my goodness! All of these ears.
It really sets your expectations to be like, okay, at any point on this walk, we could come across something, because I think until that point, I want to say, all of us had sort of been thinking that on the walk there wouldn't be any encounters or anything, and we would get to a location, and that's when, you know, in the back of your mind you think, okay, well that's when things will happen. But by putting us in the way of these people, or them in our way rather, it sort of made you go, nope, it could be any time, it could be anywhere, which for the thorns and the fighters among us was, I don't know, from your perspective, but certainly from mine, I was like, now we're talking. Now this isn't just a walk that's like just about icy because we're just having a chat. Now this is roleplay. Like now we're in the game, and we've got to stay in the game.
I think that was exactly that. I think it was roleplay. I think still in the back of my mind, I was going, because we had been told out of character there will be no like combat or anything on the walks. So even though I was role playing, like, I better keep watch, better, you know, make sure everyone's
you
doing
still
it.
know.
It was full like role play. Well, we thought we knew, right? We went along. It was a nice long walk. The first one I think was the longest.
It was the longest
path. It was the longest path. Lots of ups and downs, bit of mud, but everyone was kind of enjoying themselves. We were kind of passing in between different groups, talking to all of the different people along.
It was a beautiful location, and it was really nice to just keep like changing who you're walking with too.
Yeah,
People were
slow down a
singing
bit.
as well. The bards, but not just the bards, also just people were singing. It was great.
And we felt a little smug, didn't we, after that first encounter with our chainmail on, everyone else looking a little bit shiftier in their thin cloth, and us in our mighty metal t-shirts.
We suddenly started looking at each other like maybe we're going to end up at the front of this line.
And
but again, I wasn't stressed. I was like, "There's no combat on the paths because we're on public footpaths."
Yeah, you're still like waiting to get to a location, still probably.
What was the next encounter we had? Was it the Blood Red Roads?
No,
We
it
had a
was the
couple.
High Guard. It was the Grey Pilgrims.
Ah, yes.
Some Grey Pilgrims. We had some Blood Red Roads.
The Leaguers were
They were great.
Yeah, they were fixing the Blood Red Roads or something. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
Because obviously in this location they have paths that are through the trees, which were the trods, but they also have big foresting paths, which are much more sort of sandy and they look more like roads. So they really cleverly placed it, I think, and set it to say that, oh yeah, this is between Upvold and Miaran, and this is one of the Blood Red Roads that we keep kind of crossing over, because from an IC point, like if you know the map and you're kind of into all that detail and depth, then you're like, oh yeah, there is a Blood Red Road that goes around here. I know that that's kind of the pathway. And I'd just been learning the map, so I was sort of quietly on an OC note vibrating inside my chainmail going, oh my god, I know this place, this is so cool. But it worked really, really well, and it made their encounters work really well as well. Just those little ones that happened after the first sort of the physicking one, which were, oh, there's people up ahead, oh no, it's fine, but you're still on edge, but you get to do some role play, and you're kind of off edge, but you are on edge, and that felt very Navarre, I think, in many ways, to be traveling like, anyone could be a foe, but oh, it's okay, but stay on your guard. Oh, it's okay, but stay on your guard. Oh, meet these other people that you might just normally come across on the trods.
And it's worth noting that our walking band was mainly Navarre, though we were joined by a couple of others, particularly we had some Roseni and a very, very cool Varushka mage, which we'll get to later.
Very cool.
And the big one was a Grey Pilgrim, I believe, the other mage. Very tall one.
I believe that was a Grey Pilgrim who was our little NPC along for the ride.
Had a great gruff voice that they put on and maintained
Incredible.
for the whole weekend.
So good, yeah.
But then we got to kind of, it was very hot. I've been taking on lots of water, eating lots of snacks along the way, sailing the chainmail. It was quite warm. And then we get told that we're going to stop for lunch, right? We're all thinking, nice. That's been like a good 3-hour walk. We didn't bring the food because we were told we didn't need to because it's
we would be back. Yeah,
heading back to camp. So we head up and we get to this fort, and we're getting told, yeah, cool. So we're just gonna have lunch here, and some of us are kind of looking around, going, oh, I thought we were gonna go back to get our lunch, but that's okay. Have a quick sit down, get some water. We'll head over in a second. And Matty, you also wanted to go back to get your lunch, right?
No, I had been bursting the loo for a while because it's slightly less for me to just go and pee behind a tree than it is for you to, chainmail notwithstanding. So I had actually, on sort of a semi-OC note, asked Johnny, who was playing Hal Greenfeet, aka Sarge, who was basically the NPC guiding us along the trods. And I'd asked him, like, should I, just go behind a tree, like at the previous place we'd stopped or something? And he said, oh, no, just wait, we're going to be pretty close to camp soon. You can just nip up and use the portaloos. And I was like, cool, that's fine. So we got to the fort, and I was like, is this a good place? He went, yeah. This is fine. Just walk all the way up that road and you'll get there. Just keep your hand in the air. I was like, okay, cool. And I put my spear and shield down and I just started walking. And then
Ta-da! Boom.
Couple
Shout.
of people, Varushkan, I believe they were, yelling some abuse at us, armed.
From somewhere down the path.
Only counting like 1, 2, then Ban and I immediately going, right, here we go. Pushed around the left side, ran into another couple hiding in the bushes, and it was at this point we realised it was about to kick off.
Ambush time.
The combat was actually happening, and looking at each other as the only armoured people visible. We learnt later that one of the other person technically did have their brigandine on, but we were the only clearly armoured people on the field, and Ban didn't even have a weapon.
Yeah, some of us brought armor but no weapons. I am a support player.
Just explain quickly for anyone who's not been to site that when you think of bushes, you might think of like the forested area on the battlefield at mainline Anvil. But these bushes were super thick, super tall, and they had all these twisting alleyways, and you genuinely could not see around them. So it was so easy to like hide around them, and it was so good. They literally were on top of us when we first saw them. It was amazing.
Like 5 meter engagement distance.
Yeah, it really made a difference to the feel of it, because you didn't have to be like, oh, should I be pretending I don't see you? You know, you never quite always know on the battlefield once you go through the gate sometimes, like, oh, is that really a fence and can I really see through it, or am I kind of supposed to abstract layer, pretend that I can't see around it, kind of thing. But this, you just couldn't see.
Yeah, it made it really freaky when Farron and I went off to the left. We thought there was just one heavily armoured bandit, and there was actually 2 more on my left, even further around on the flank. It gave me
like a rabbit run or something.
Yeah, and I was like, "Ooh, let's get out of here," because these to get around these, let's call them mega bushes, the technical term, right? There were some very small little gaps, wide enough for a single person. That's it, barely enough to swing a sword. And I thought this is going to be a horrible place to get killed, because no one will get to you, and no one's going to be there to save you.
I'm glad you spotted the people on the left, because I hadn't, and I was well prepared to just charge that first guy.
Yeah, when it came round, I had that worried look on my face. We need to go, Farron. We're fucked. We're up shit creek. There are no paddles, and there's a thunderstorm on the horizon.
Shattersong armed with Farron's weapons.
Yep.
Larkin has my spear, but granted, it's really Larkin's spear at this point. Farron doesn't use it. I'm an ambi, so I handed Ban my smaller sword, acceptably, and whipped out my dagger, which I have to say, it's honestly some of the most fun I've had. Is just dagger and sword, and I can see why people genuinely use it. A little bit less of the protection, but very offensive. It was very fun to play.
Very offensive. Maybe this is a good segue into just generally talking about how we found combat over the weekend. Then.
Oh boy!
I think this first one, just to kind of wrap it up, was quite a long scrap with some fairly armored bandits and some fairly unarmored Navari taking this all on.
Pasty civilians.
The physics hastily trying to sort of organise themselves, which, to their credit, they did.
They did. It was a little bit, kind of sporadic. We weren't prepared for combat. We still didn't really know each other by then. So no one was really prepared. We all kind of split off into different groups.
Big bonding moment.
And they kept coming in from different angles, and we were splitting off into groups. And I kept going. I went down a couple of times. Was on low hit points. And then there was this genuine moment where Larkin, you'd gone off with lots of them, kind of chasing them.
Yeah, I went off to the right to wrap around some. Yeah. And
I just couldn't find you. Like, Ban had been screaming on the floor. I don't know what had happened to you.
The poo had finally left my body.
No, it definitely
I was going, Man, have you seen Larkin? No. Shit. So I was genuinely stressed as Farron wandering around. Like, I hadn't got to the stage of shouting, because I kind of thought Larkin's alright, Back in my mind, Larkin's alright. But it was about the 2-minute mark where I hadn't found you looking down 2 different wings that I was like, oh no.
This is awfully close to 3 minutes of no contact, and we all know what that means.
But then you wandered back.
3-minute bleed out timer.
I know.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry. Should have made that. Sorry. The 3-minute bleed timer. Better.
Unless you're hungry.
Oh yeah. Or you have other things that make it different. But yeah, generally 3 minutes is how long you go once you've dropped to no hits before you are dead / terminal. But it's funny because on a more OC note, I'm probably the one out of the three of us with the least combat experience. Certainly the least combat experience with the combination that I was wielding. But just the least combat in general, let's face it. So I don't think it was an unreasonable assumption that if I had been the one armored person on the other side, I could easily have gone down. Now, luckily, I'm fairly tanky because I know that I get hit a lot, so I've upped my hits for that exact reason.
Well, this is like some of the first times I have been slightly more tanky. Normally I run around in light, so to be running around in chain.
Yeah.
Feels good, doesn't it?
It does feel really good. I'm like, this is proper steel chain, so I'm feeling the weight of it,
cool.
the momentum.
It swishes. It's amazing. It feels cool.
But yeah, basically, this early combat, I think most people were a little unprepared as well. I think the NPCs weren't warmed up. I don't think we were warmed up. And we had our most energy. So I found myself charging in, blocking things to the left, like just kind of getting in close and just absolutely stabbing the bandits up and having an absolute whale of a time.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I think on a kind of a more all-round note, it was that first combat. No one was kind of ready for it. And I think over the course of the weekend, the combats got harder.
Yeah.
But also we got
better.
Yeah, definitely.
We understood what other people could do. There was a lot more like structure to the way we were approaching fights. And yeah, no, it felt good overall. I think the one downside of that first combat though was gravity cast strike down on myself.
Ooh.
And I went pummeling down, powered by the momentum of that extra weight the chain gives, and slammed my knee on a root. And I was genuinely cleaved for quite a bit of that battle, mainly because it was quite painful.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
I was worried that was it for the weekend, but fortunately, kind of made sure it was all right.
Yeah, managed to tough through.
Yeah.
And
you kind of
honestly,
it was one
it's
of
fine
those
now. Just pain.
Yeah, it was definitely one of those where you're exhausted, but because of the setting and the costume and the character and everything, you kind of just keep going. Like, I mean, we were all dead on our feet with the weight of the chainmail. I know, Chris, your chainmail wasn't quite as much, but it was a lot still to be doing all of that walking and the uphill and the downhill
and the forward rolls
charging and the fact, not this time I didn't notice any, but also the fact that because we're all in armor and we're quite heavily weaponed, well, some of us have got big weapons, we were charging forwards a lot, so we were running perhaps slightly more than some of the others. So it all just added up. But on a very general note, before I forget to say it, that combat, more so than the others, because it was just us in our armor and like really heavily weaponed and everything, kitted out, I have never quite had that reason to be pushed forwards and just charge into the fray and be at the front, because I've never been the tanky one or the super good one. So I don't know, it was amazing. It put me super into the character, it got me really involved in the combat, and I had an absolute whale of a time from that point onwards. Like, honestly, that was really the beginning of the whole weekend for me, and that's the beginning of me going, what an amazing event.
I love that from you, because my whole reaction to that was, obviously everyone at the start of the combat was like, everyone to the, heavies to the front, and I just looked at them and went, no, I'm prepared, you're not. That's basically my view on things. I'm not dying because I've got armor on, doesn't mean I have to fight for you. but that's my opinion.
The
Just
arrangement.
being
That was more of
just
an
just the
OC one.
experience of knowing things on the field. No, it was definitely icy.
No,
have to
but
say.
for me, I think it
Oh,
it
sure.
pushed me forwards from an OC point, because it's normally OC that I have that one little bit of hesitation that just stops me from like charging forward in a skirmish, which we know maybe in Anvil like mainline events they are often quite deadly, but it also, I'm always surrounded by people who are a lot better than me, and I don't quite have that reason, like the need to jump forward. So it's one of those things, like, until you have to do it because there's no other option. I'm always fighting with myself to try and be like, just go and do it, because I regret it every time I don't. And at E1, fighting with you, Chris, like, I really made myself do it. I was like, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna use a roleplay effect. It's gonna help. It did help, push me forwards. I had the proper loadout that actually worked for me for once, and I was like, screw it. It's gotta happen. But there was still that little bit of me that hadn't had the practice, and Walk the Longest Path was where those two things combined, where I was like, I have a reason, both IC and OC. I don't have an excuse or like someone to hide behind, and I finally got the loadout. Time to practice, and my god, I have never done anything like it. It was amazing.
It's also one of those skirmish type battles that you don't get to do that often at Empire.
Yeah.
It's kind of the smaller scale, very very intimate combat in a way, because you do. It's a lot more one-on-ones, and it's a lot more a kind of just making the best of what you've got.
Well, we won't jump too far forwards like straight away, but when we eventually get round to Sunday's combat, just a big thumbs up. I think we all agreed with that one.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think, and I hope, and I not even hope, demand that you all agree that there is a particular encounter that is the best of the weekend, without exception. And I refuse to listen to any other logical argument about it. But that will come later. But yeah, I guess I guess that kind of leaves us at the halfway point of the weekend, doesn't it? Sort of 1 o'clock in the afternoon ish of the Saturday.
It's the half.
Oh, sorry, Sol. Your mic did the thing where it freestyled, and it freestyled itself around the bole of a tree, and we never heard any of it.
All I said was it may be the halfway point of the weekend, but it's only just begun.
Yes, yes, the warm up is finished.
The beginning of everything else. The beginning of the rest of the weekend, some might say.
It was not the end, or even the beginning of the end, but the end of the beginning. And I hope I got that quite right. And I think what we'll do, actually, dear chums, is we'll cut this episode here, because we're running at 43 minutes and 11 seconds. I know, no, it's good, but I'll chop these into two things being episodes, because what I'd like to do is, like you said, this has laid the foundations, and next time I want to drill into the combat, some of the encounters we had, some of the NPCs, then also how, like, what I think I didn't note it down for this episode, but I really want to dive into it next time, is how the group bonded. Because by the end of it, it was almost like watching characters level up in front of your eyes. You know those mobile games where you see like level 1, level 10, level 50? It was like that, because by the end, spoilers everybody, we had nearly 30 fully armoured citizens raging into these combats. Like you said, Sol, the combat got harder, but because we got dead hard. We got harder with a apostrophe as the hours and walks and days went on. So yeah, definitely want to explore that as a theme. But thank you both so much for surrendering 44 minutes and 14 seconds of your evening to me.
That's okay. You know, a LARPer, always happy to talk about LARP.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Don't worry about the fact that we've probably spent actual hours already talking about this exact event. We're happy to do it again.
Yeah, and again.
And again.
And again. Alrighty, well, until next time, dear chums, keep your blades sharp, your wits sharper, And should you come across anything called Kronk, immediately send me a winged messenger.